As we begin to talk about the subject of culture and identity, it is important to first start with defining those concepts. It's a bit difficult to really understand exactly what we mean by culture and identity, but there is one organization, a very reputable organization, UNESCO, that provides us this definition of culture. According to UNESCO, culture is the set of distinctive spiritual, material, intellectual, and emotional features of society or a social group that encompasses not only art and literature, but lifestyles, ways of living together, value systems, traditions, and beliefs. Other definitions of culture tend to emphasize things like symbols, those things that bind us together in society, history, background, all the things that really make us feel like we are a community. But it does emphasize differences, cultural differences, and the ways in which they can be distinct. Think about culture shock, right? When you travel from one country to another, you sometimes experience this feeling of culture shock. You leave one culture, one way of life, that which may feel very comfortable to you, and you then insert yourself into another culture and another way of life. And sometimes that can be a bit shocking to your system, right? To have to learn to interact with one another in a different way, acknowledge certain reference points within society. This can be a shock to one's system, and that's why we call it culture shock. As an extension of culture, we can look at this concept, social identity. Social identity are those things that bind us together within society and make us feel like we are a social collective. Now, social identity really comes from this concept of individual identity, the fact that all of us individually have a particular way of seeing the world, interacting with one another based on our own individual concepts of self, our own individual roles. So think about, as an individual, I might see myself as a mother, a teacher, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend. These are all the different roles that make up me, my identity, and how I see myself and how I interact with others, interacting with my daughter as a mother, interacting with my students as a teacher, interacting with my friends as a friend. Similar to individual identity, social groups and societies also have a concept of self and also take on certain roles that they play vis-a-vis one another. This really reflects cultural attitudes, cultural beliefs, various backgrounds and histories that are shared within society. That social identity then is what really reflects a certain sense of belonging, community, and solidarity. So now that we've explored these concepts of culture and identity, let's do a little exercise and think about your own identities and how those relate to your social interactions. So I mentioned my own set of roles and how those make up my identity, right? Mother, wife, daughter, teacher, friend, etc. Think about how you define yourself and all the various roles that you play in society. And then think about how those are relational in nature, in the sense that a mother relates to a daughter relates to a mother. These are relations, right? So think about how your roles define your social interaction. Similarly, let's think about our identities in terms of nesting. Let's just think about location, for example. So as a Normanite, right, that's my bottom nest. I'm a Normanite, I'm an Oklahoman, I'm somebody from the Central Plains, I'm somebody from the United States of America, an American, and then the global community. So I have this nested sense of self that has to do with place and where I come from. Think about that in terms of your own location and your own understanding of your identity vis-a-vis your community. Are these things competing? Do all of our identities compete with one another? Can they nest with one another? Are they coexistent? How might they explain your interactions with your social community? So give it some thought, provide us that illustration, and really think about how you as an individual relate and interact with your social community, with the global community.